Is that the best you can do, boy? The words, dripping with contempt, echoed in the silent courtroom. Arthur Sterling, a lion of corporate law in a $1,000 suit, leaned into his microphone, a cruel smirk on his lips. He gestured dismissively at the young lawyer opposite him, a man who looked barely old enough to be there. "Fetching my coffee used to be your mother's job," Sterling whispered, his voice laced with venom for the whole room to hear. "It seems a lack of ability runs in the family." The jury shifted, uncomfortable. The judge, an old friend of Sterling's, just sighed. But across the aisle, Liam Rojas stood perfectly still. He didn't flinch, he didn't argue, he just waited. Because he knew something Arthur Sterling, in all his gilded arrogance, had forgotten. He knew exactly how this was all going to end.
We've all heard that pride comes before the fall. This story feels like it was ripped straight from a Hollywood script, but its roots are all too real. We've seen the powerful underestimate the meek and use wealth as a weapon to intimidate. The justice system itself can sometimes feel like a playground for the rich, where the underdog rarely gets a fair shot. But every now and then, a story comes along that reminds us that real justice isn't about the size of your bank account, it's about the truth. Now, the story of Liam Rojas and Arthur Sterling is a work of fiction, but it's an inspirational tale about what happens when arrogance collides with a truth it never saw coming. Sterling was a legal titan, head of Sterling Capital, who had never lost a case, mostly because he never fought fair. He didn't just beat his opponents, he crushed them. Liam was the exact opposite, a young, unknown lawyer fighting his first major case. His only tie to Sterling's world was his mother, Elena, who had worked for 2 decades as Sterling's housekeeper. The case was a true David versus Goliath fight, a small startup suing Sterling Capital for stealing its patent for a revolutionary water purification system. Everyone, and I mean everyone, expected Liam to be annihilated. They were all wrong.
The trial started just like everyone thought it would. Arthur Sterling was a master showman. He strutted before the jury, painting his client as a pillar of integrity and the plaintiffs as parasites. And with every point he made, he took a personal shot at Liam. He'd call him the boy. He'd ask, with dripping condescension, if Liam needed basic legal ideas explained to him. During one cross-examination, Sterling actually interrupted, saying, "Your Honor, perhaps my young adversary needs a moment. This must all be very overwhelming for someone of his background." A few people in the courtroom chuckled. The judge, who regularly had expensive dinners with Sterling, just offered a weak, "Let's maintain decorum, Arthur." This kind of prejudice is a poison in the pursuit of justice. It's not just about the law. It's about making someone feel like they don't even belong in the room. Sterling wasn't just arguing a case. He was reinforcing a social order where he was king. He mocked Liam's off-the-rack suit and made digs about his public education. Day by day, it was working. The jury looked at Sterling with admiration and at Liam with a kind of pity. The startup's case, built on solid facts, was being torn apart not by evidence, but by pure, uncut arrogance. What Sterling and the jury couldn't see was where Liam's strength came from. It wasn't from a fancy law school. It was from the memory of his mother, Elena. He remembered her coming home late, her hands raw from cleaning chemicals. He remembered her sitting at their tiny kitchen table, checking his homework when she was exhausted, telling him, "Mijo, your mind is your weapon. Make it sharp. No one can ever take that from you." Every spare dollar she earned working in Sterling's mansion went to putting Liam through school. And while working for Sterling, she saw everything. She saw his casual cruelty. She also saw his carelessness, the documents he left out, the phone calls he took without a second thought. She never said a word, but she was always watching. Before she passed away 2 years earlier, she gave Liam her journals, dozens of them. "There is truth in here, Liam," she told him. "People like Mr. Sterling, they forget about people like us. They don't think we see. They don't think we matter. Prove him wrong."
So Liam wasn't just fighting for a patent, he was fighting for his mother's honor. He was calm because he was holding his mother's weapon, and he was just waiting for the right moment to use it.
That moment came during closing arguments. Sterling was at his peak, pacing before the jury, playing the victim of a greedy lawsuit. He finished by turning to Liam one last time. "In the end, this case is about character," he declared. "And I ask you, whose character do you trust? A pillar of this community, or a boy trying to win the lottery with a lie?" He sat down, a confident smirk on his face. He thought the battle was won. The judge turned to Liam. "Mr. Rojas, your closing argument." Liam rose slowly and looked directly at Arthur Sterling. "Your Honor, I have no closing argument," he said, his voice quiet but clear. The courtroom started murmuring. Sterling's smirk widened. The boy was giving up. "Instead," Liam continued, his voice growing stronger, "I'd like to introduce one final piece of evidence to rebut Mr. Sterling's claims about his own character." He placed a small, worn leather book on the table. "This was my mother's journal." Sterling burst out laughing, a loud, ugly sound. "A maid's diary? Are you serious? Your Honor, this is a farce. It's inadmissible. It's pathetic." The judge seemed to agree. "Mr. Rojas, what is this?" But Liam was ready. "It's not to prove the events themselves, Your Honor. It's to impeach the testimony of Mr. Sterling, who has spent this entire trial talking about his unimpeachable character." Liam opened the journal. "This entry is from May 14th, 8 years ago. My mother, Elena Rojas, wrote..." He paused, locking eyes with Sterling, then read the words that would change everything. "Mr. Sterling was in his study tonight with a young inventor. The young man was crying. After he left, Mr. Sterling was on the phone, laughing. He said, 'I told him it was worthless and offered him pennies for the patent. He was so desperate he took it. The fool just handed me $1 billion idea for the price of a used car, a water purifier that will change the world. He sounded so proud of being cruel.'"
The courtroom went dead silent. Sterling's smug mask completely dissolved. His face turned a ghostly white, his jaw hanging slack. He stammered, That's a fabrication, a lie from a disgruntled servant." "Is it, Mr. Sterling?" Liam asked calmly. "Because the inventor my mother wrote about, a man named David Chen, who you claimed you'd never met? He's sitting right outside this courtroom, ready to testify that that is exactly what happened that night. Your testimony wasn't just misleading, it was perjury." It was the knockout punch. The journal entry unlocked the truth, and a living witness was ready to back it up. It didn't just shatter Sterling's defense, it shattered his entire life in a single, breathtaking moment. The jury stared at him, their admiration now twisted into disgust. They'd been played, and they knew it. The judge looked at his old friend not with sympathy, but with the cold, hard eyes of the law. He knew it was over. Arthur Sterling's career was over. The media storm outside the courthouse was immediate. The story was no longer just about a stolen patent. It was about the arrogant lawyer brought down by the one person he never even saw, his maid.
The fallout was swift and total. The jury sided with the startup, awarding them the patent and enough punitive damages to cripple Sterling Capital. Arthur Sterling was investigated for perjury and disbarred. The empire he built on intimidation crumbled to dust, all because he mocked the poor kid and forgot about the mother who saw everything. This story is a perfect reminder that arrogance is the most fragile armor there is. These underdog stories resonate with us because they tap into a deep hope for a just world. They show us that dignity isn't bought and that truth can come from the most unexpected places. Liam Rojas didn't win because he was a more brilliant lawyer. He won because he was his mother's son. He carried her legacy of quiet integrity into a battle against a man who had none. In the end, he proved that character is the one thing money can't buy, and it's the only thing that can truly bring down a king.
Stories like this one, about justice finally being served, are incredibly powerful. Have you ever seen an underdog pull off a shocking victory against all odds? Tell us about it in the comments below. And for more amazing stories of karma and justice, make sure you subscribe and hit that notification bell so you never miss an update.